Welcome to College Football Roundtable, your source for college football coverage, including major storylines,
playoffs,
can't miss game previews, and picks each week. Join your hosts, Dan, Rob, and Jordan at the Roundtable for a show unlike anything else. As for Football presents the College Football Roundtable.
All right, well, we're going to get started. I dropped a note in the Firsty Club to let them know that we're going live at 6 rather than 7, so hopefully somebody will show up. Hopefully Joe will pop on as well. But to the Michigan faithful, congratulations on a hard-fought win over the Washington Huskies, 34-13. Michigan secured their first national championship since 1997, and that's been a while. We're here to run down our impressions of the game and thoughts on the semifinals and the championship, but we have to give credit where credit is due. The Wolverines were able to package together a decent season after all the distractions and win the national championship. What's up, Trash Talkers? Welcome back to the College Football Roundtable, or if you prefer, you can still call it Ring Knocker Radio. It's Ring Knocker Radio for sure today. We're waiting on Joe. Hopefully it will pop in. If not, you've got Rob, your host in Fayetteville, North Carolina here, and then you've got Dano Ikebesa in Coastal Connecticut. And Trigger Joe is probably still running around the state of Michigan celebrating the victory. And
has he had a shirt on since they won the game? Has he put his shirt on yet, or is he still just running around with a beer in his hand going?
Yeah, it's probably because he's probably waiting on that national championship shirt to get in the mail. That's probably why he's not here. So he can rub it in our faces, but I'm sure we'll hear about it next year as well. This is no longer breaking news. However, Nick Saban is retiring from Bama. So quick thoughts on that. Who do you think is a front runner for that new gig? And you and I talked about it offline, but what are your thoughts on the new Bama coach, Dano?
I told you, man, this is going to be one of the greatest ironies in college football history, but Lane Kiffin is the obvious choice. Not that I necessarily think he'll have the same kind of success that Saban had, because, how could anybody? But I think, one, that he'd take the job, and that's not a small part of this. And two, he has the pedigree with the Alabama faithful to get an offer after a couple of folks quietly turned Alabama down. But man, salary aside, trying to follow Nick Saban at Alabama has got to be one of the most unforgiving jobs in American football history. I just can't imagine walking into a tougher situation in terms of expectations. Consider 6 weeks ago, Bama fans were ready to roast Saban on a spit, and they made the college football playoff. They won the SEC. It's nuts. You and I were saying, you actually said, well, they had a down season. If your metric for a down season is one loss, SEC championship, but we didn't make the actual championship game, that's a tough gig, man. That's tough.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough. I know, rumor floating around. They said Dan Lanning from Oregon went out there. He actually stayed. I know there's a couple announcements on everything on social media was popping off and all the sports websites. He's staying at Oregon. I know that Marcus Freeman was in the conversation as well from Notre Dame.
Interesting.
He's an interesting choice, but I'm not impressed with him as a coach. You know what I mean? You've got Notre Dame, you can't recruit, and you haven't, really represented that brand very well. And going into Tuscaloosa, that's going to be a much, much more difficult road. So it'll be interesting to see. And while we're here, the other things in the coaching carousel in the NFL is going through some changes as well.
Oh my God,
Pete Carroll is stepping down. 29 seasons of coaching for Bill Belichick. He's been at the 24 years with the Patriots, and he's leaving. So
that's amazing.
That's a huge gap. I think, one could make the argument that Bill Belichick is the greatest of all time, at least in modern era coaching, for sure. With the number of wins with the same team and the number of championships, but it's going to be they've got a long road to hoe to figure out who's going to replace a guy that's won that many games. And I get it. A 4-13 season would get most coaches fired. We get that, but interesting moves on the coaching carousel, and we'll see. But like I said, my initial gut thought was, yeah, Dan Lanning probably made sense because he's in the coaching tree of Saban because he worked with Kirby. But I think we're going to be surprised, and they have to make an announcement like at least by Saturday or Sunday because it hurts recruiting the longer that job stays vacant. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, and Alabama recruiting is always in a knife fight. I mean, at the end of the day, it does sort of come down to who's got the biggest bag of, McDonald's cash that you can hand to those kids under the table. But and Bama's been competitive on that scale for a long, long time.
Yeah, but, and we could talk about we could talk about it. It's definitely an off-season show, but like the transfer portal is burning down college football right now. So like if you're a college football fan, like we could talk about the transfer portal, but I just don't think it makes any sense right now because there's so much movement right now. But I can tell you that teams are fixing their problems. Like after the loss to Michigan, everybody thought Ohio State was done. Their starting quarterback transfers out in less than 2 weeks. They get the former starting quarterback from K-State is now their starting quarterback, and the number one running back from the SEC is now their starting tailback. So both of these guys. Both of these guys have just recently transferred in. So, like, we will definitely have to do an off-season show probably after spring ball to talk about the transfer portal and everything else because, like, it's going to have to hammer itself out before we even imagine because it's insane.
Well, like I told you, I personally had made the decision to take a month off from the December 15th to January 15th. And it's been really hard to stick to that just because the shit is crazy. Like, it's nuts. We had the whole, even this isn't the Army show, and we're going to talk about it eventually, but, you had the whole thing with Army's new offensive coordinator, Navy's got a new offensive coordinator, like the coaching carousel, and then you have Saban and Belichick retire, you're going to kick off a whole nother round of coaching carousel. So, it's there's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. And like, if you scroll through 24/7 sports, like there's dudes that are enrolling right now. They're getting that early enrollment so they can be available for spring ball. And you're looking at it like I said, we could do a whole other show on this, but we're going to forego that. And let's talk about a little bit of Patreon. So if you like Ask for Football and you want to support our coverage of Army sports and the American Football Conference, which we're going into next year, we could use your help through Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Ask for Football to learn more. There are links on our website. At the yearling level, you get weekly games and locks of the week. At the Cal level, you get that plus our scouting report. And at the Firsty level, you get exclusive access to the Firsty Club, which is our private Facebook group for our top level patrons. This is the best place to talk about Army sports and college football in general because we're all super fans. We really try hard to keep it positive. It's a private group, so what happens there stays there. And Firsties also get access to live recordings like this one so they can interact with the show. The reality of it is we spent a lot of money over the past year to improve Ask for Football in general. We are now on StreamYard. We're using Podcastle AI to improve our sound quality. We've given regular recording time so folks can join us live, and all that stuff takes time and money. That's why we need your support. So if you are interested, go to askforfootball.com and click on the Patreon button and sign up today.
Yeah, the takeaway is definitely, if you like Ask for Football, there's more Ask for Football out there to be had. I said I took a month. I said I wanted to take a month off, but I really only took 2 weeks off from the Firsty Club, and I'm back in there every day now. So go figure.
And the other part of it is we've expanded coverage, so we're bringing on Omar, and of course James is working pretty hard on Ask for Baseball and Ask for Lax. So we're trying to get as much coverage as we can for Army sports, even when it's not football season. So it's not just Ask for Football; it's Ask for Army sports, basically. So if you want to participate, please dive into the
Patreon. It help us help you.
Yeah, for sure. We're trying to make it easier for you to find Army sports coverage from Army fans, and it's much, much easier coming to us than other folks, but we'll leave it right there. So, Dano, what are your thoughts on the semifinals and the championship game?
The semis already feel like a lifetime ago. I can't even remember what happened in the Washington-Texas game. I thought the Bama-Michigan game was a good game, but Michigan was definitely the better team. Considering the last few weeks, the way the last few weeks finished, like now with the benefit of hindsight, it seems clear to me that there were 3 teams that were better than the rest of the country. Michigan, obviously, plus Georgia and Alabama were at another level. I understand Bama lost a game to Texas early in the season, but football teams change. You know, just losing one game early in the season and staying tight with USF for 3 quarters, like you cannot put too much stock into that. At the end of the day, wins and losses matter, even when they have crazy stuff happening. So I will say too that I don't think Florida State, realize this is a little off topic, but I don't think Florida State helped their case much by no showing the Orange Bowl and just getting dog walked.
Yeah,
Like
that was
yeah.
nuts.
After that, I was like, why are you not in the CFP? Behold, here you are, 63-3. Like I didn't want to hear it.
Well, and they had a bunch of their team opt out. Like guys at the portal, dudes were not dressing, and I get it. And I know that's one of the things that, like, when you hear all the prognosticators about college football around the sport, they're talking about how, something big is going to happen, particularly with like NIL and the postseason play, because ESPN lost a boatload of cash on the bowl games this year. Like the bowl games were not very good. As
the bowl games, they actually came across as exhibitions that don't matter. I normally love bowl season, but you had kids sitting out in like group of 5 bowl games. It was crazy.
I think
Frank Harris retired from UTSA. Like, but really, like when you don't even have Frank Harris, like that's bad.
Yeah, when a guy like Frank Harris, who has played that long in college football, doesn't want to play in the bowl game.
That's bad. I understand that guys like developed a series of injuries over the course of 7 years of college football. Like, no issue with him retiring from the sport. I do wish him well with the rest of his life, but yeah, I mean that bowl game, I didn't watch it. Like,
you could at least suit it up one more time, even if it was just as a backup, or take the first series or whatever. I don't know. Like, I would really like to wish Joe was here so we could get his take on everything, but it's probably going to be a lot of go Blues and hail to the victors. So
I will say I thought the actual championship game was kind of disappointing. Like, Michigan came out and they, that first drive, would they run 7 of their first 9 plays were runs, and they gained something like 11 yards per carry. It's like, oh Lord, this is going to be an awful game.
Well, I'll get into it, but I will say the semis were significantly better than last year. I will say that. I'm concerned right now that the ESPN and the quote unquote power conferences are getting too close. I mean, the SEC and the Big Ten in particular, like, I don't know if you were watching the game, but like there was a moment in the championship where they cut to the Michigan fan boxes and you had basically everybody that's on the ESPN broadcast crew that's not calling the game was in the booth at Michigan. And it's like, all right, guys, look, at least have some type of partiality. Like, if you're on the field, or, the only people that should be on the sidelines are the sidelines reporters. Like, everybody else, buy a damn ticket, or ESPN, you can't afford a booth. Like, holy smokes, you're hosting, the college football playoff. Get your hosts a freaking booth, man. Like, I understand Desmond Howard hanging out with the Michigan guys because he's a Michigan guy. Like, he graduated from there. Absolutely makes perfect sense. But when I see Lee Corso, Stephen A. Smith, Jess Sims, and all those other people that are, on the sidelines or habitually covering college football on that side, you knew at the weight of what ESPN wanted, at least based off of where their cast and crew was. And that's just not a good look, and I will tell you, I'm getting to the point and I'm going to say it now. If I'm wrong, great. I hope I am. But Kansas City will be in the Super Bowl this year. You know why? Because of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. It's putting butts in seats, so they're going to figure out a way to make that happen. And I've been saying that for.
I don't know about that one. I mean, I get why the league might want that, but my family has declared for the Bills. I think they definitely have the best team. They're definitely better than any team in the NFC. We'll see what happens in the AFC, but I think that they're better than the Chiefs. Well,
for
interesting finish to the pro season.
Yeah, and like I said, I've always been that. Like, when I really started getting skeptical of the NFL was the year of 9/11. The Patriots win the Super Bowl, and I was like, all right, come on, guys, this is a little on the nose, right? And then the year that Jerome Bettis rushes for like 2 yards and a touchdown, and he gets the Super Bowl MVP in Detroit the year he retires. It's like, like for me, that was it. And then, the final nail in the coffin was Colin Kaepernick, without going too far down that line of questioning. But like, literally, those were the markers that kind of like that was my slow degrade and walk away from professional football just because those things were happening.
That's another story. That whole Kaepernick thing is another story. I probably have a different take on it than you do, but anyway, we'll leave. I don't hate Kaepernick. I think he's got an interesting gig that I wouldn't mind having myself, but that dude hasn't wanted to suit up in quite a while.
Yeah, and that's true. But the other part of it is like, from a perspective of wanting to do something positive, like you had 160 million reasons to stay in the NFL, and then you could have had a lot more impact with 160 million dollars than you could, making a YouTube video, or not YouTube, a Netflix special that got roasted by everyone. But moving on, speaking of getting roasted by everyone, the only other the other big comment that I had about the game itself and the championship was the ACC crew, man. Like, I thought those refs were terrible. Like, they were terrible. Like, I get it. There's a whole lot of holding. There's always holding in college football. There's always holding in the NFL.
Sure.
However, when I watch an offensive tackle from Michigan pick a dude up and push him into the end zone, like, how did he pick him up? He was holding his jersey, like, throw the flag, you know what I mean? And it was very, very obvious because the running back, like, ran past that whole situation. And then when I shut the TV off was when I saw the phantom call when, Michael Penix finally has a great pass. It's 44 yards down the field and like, oh, holding. And then they show the replay and they zoom in and it's like the dude didn't touch him. And you're like, okay, what is going on here? And at that point I was like, okay, these guys suck, and again, hand checking I'm cool with, but there was a lot of offensive and defensive pass interference the entire game that was not getting called. And it's like, hey, if the ACC referees were that marginal during the season, that's probably why Florida State was 13-0, so that, another, just another ding on that league for this season. But like I said, going back to taking it to the top, man, I've said it all year, and I know Joe's not here to defend him, but I will say finishing your college career at 27-1 is a remarkable stat for JJ McCarthy. However, the championship game proved to me that he is the single greatest game manager in the history of Michigan football. Because
no,
and what I'm saying is, like, congratulations, the dude won, but do not try and make comparisons to other great quarterbacks from other great programs, because JJ McCarthy is in a class by himself. Because look at it this way: if they would have ran the ball the rest of the first half, it would it'd have been 60 to nothing.
Absolutely, and I thought that too.
And for some reason, the offensive coordinator was like, hey, let's let JJ throw. Like, for what? You realize there was a stretch in the game where he missed 9 passes. Like, that's not winning, right? I
agree with you there. I mean, you're running for 9 yards a clip, and in the second quarter, you're only running for 4 yards a clip. 4 yards a clip, it's gonna get the job done.
Yeah.
I mean,
you don't need to break the game open. When you look at this, and when you look at his stats over the course of the year, like, he's the number 35 passer in FBS. So of all the quarterbacks that played, he was number 35, which isn't bad, but that puts you at the, you're at the bottom of the top, basically, the bottom of the top third. He had 22 passing touchdowns, most of which were very short ones, which is fine. That's like game management. Again, it goes back to that. But in the championship game, you were 10 for 19, 140 yards, no TDs, no picks. Like, that is a below average performance for a guy that everybody keeps hyping up as this stellar quarterback.
Even to me, the worst play of the game for Michigan's offensive coordinator, again, second quarter, 4th and 2, they decide to go for it. And I'm like, and I guess there was like 2 minutes left in the first half or something. And I was like, obviously you go for it because you're up 10-3 or 13-3. I forget exactly what the score was. And obviously you go for it because if you get another touchdown there, the game's basically over. No. And you're in the first quarter, dominant running game. Second quarter, still very good looking running game, and they throw on 4th and 2. I was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, well, I can tell you what it was. Somebody was like, "Hey, let's make JJ a hero." There's no reason to. Like, the whole other team was playing.
I know. Yeah, right? You're blowing these dudes off the line on every play, and you need 2 yards. Like, this is not complicated.
Hey, put in 2 tight ends, run it down the throat.
Yeah.
Like
that I didn't understand at all.
yeah, I didn't understand that either. Not a hot, again, not a hot take. I've said it all season. I think JJ is a game manager. I don't see him. I think he will mature into a great professional quarterback. I don't think he's ready for the NFL right now, but I think he's going to go.
If you are the number 35 quarterback in college football, it's asking a lot to have an impact in the pros. Not saying it's impossible. We were just talking about Josh Allen a minute ago. I don't know if I would have put Josh Allen higher than the top 35 quarterback when he was taken in the first round. And like a lot of people, I was convinced he was going to be a bust. But, behold, great career. Got the Bills going the right direction. So,
it's just weird because like if you look at a guy's last game, that's usually never an indication of how well he plays, in the pros. Like CJ Stroud looks like a monster, man. Like he's as a rookie, he's going to be one of the best rookie quarterbacks.
But he was phenomenal in college. Like he was phenomenal in college. He was the reason they were winning games.
Yes, he was. I think we're going to see something similar like that if Shedeur Sanders, comes back healthy next year. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, credit where credit is due. Michigan put it together. Won the game, and again, it was a
that running game is. Run the football, play defense. It's not complicated.
Yeah, again, Michigan should have went in with the Army formula, right? Hey, they got this quarterback that can throw dimes all over the field. Let me just run the ball and keep him off the field. I want the most lopsided time of possession in the history of lopsided times of possession. But again, to their credit, I think, they were able to overcome a whole bunch of adversity, some of it mostly internal, because I don't think, the external stuff was going to get to them this year. I still think the team last year probably was the better team of the two. If you're looking at Michigan 2023 versus Michigan 2022, I think the Michigan 2022 team was better, but they just didn't execute as well as this team did.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Because a lot of the parts and pieces were the same.
I mean, I don't. It was a lot. Last year was a lot different. I don't know. I thought that they kind of handled Ohio State this year in a way that they didn't last year.
Yeah.
I don't know, but Ohio State probably wasn't as good this year either. So who knows?
Yeah, that's fair. We'll see what happens. But Dan, if you don't mind.
Yeah, man. If you have watched this show or listened to us on the radio before, you will know that Craig Oxane is the Vice President of Residential Lending for Draper & Kramer in Chicago, and he sponsors this show. Friends, he is a member of the West Point class of 1994, licensed to lend in all 50 states, based out of Chicago, one of the biggest VA lenders in the country. This guy actually specializes in lending to veterans. Why is that important? Because if you're watching this, you're probably a veteran. And also because this mortgage process is super confusing. You got interest rates moving all over the place. You got all these crazy fees, dealing with lawyers. It's not the time to deal with some clown who just wants to make a buck off of you. Deal with somebody who actually cares, that you can pick up the phone and call and he'll actually answer. Not a call center, not some random big box bank, mindless website, whatever. That's what Craig is going to do for you. And this is how the West Point Network functions, right? Craig is helping us stay in business here at As for Football. And we're trying to help you get the best deal on a mortgage that we possibly can by introducing you to the very man you need to meet if you're trying to buy or refinance a house. Plus, Craig does not charge lending fees for veterans. That's a huge savings, like $1,300. $1,300. Get that money. So, Craig Oxane, Vice President of Residential Lending. Check him out. Links on our website. Just go to asforfootball.com. Click the little link. Fill out a questionnaire. You'll be talking to Craig in a couple of hours. It is too easy, and that's good because, like I said, this process is confusing and stressful. You got a lot going on. Don't worry about your mortgage broker. That's all I'm trying to say. Let us help you on that one.
Yeah, for sure. All right, thanks, Daniel. Hey, so we're going to run down the bandwagon sports real quick. So it looks like Matt took home the title this year. He managed it pretty well this season. He has 178 total points.
He killed us
with 32 away wins, which is pretty good. Dave G came on strong at the end of the season, came in second place with 170 points and 28 wins. You and I came in fourth, so third and fourth. I guess not bad. I mean, for a Pick'ems league, that's actually pretty good. Seeing the number of people that we had in there, but we didn't have terrible picks. Matt and Dave were just better. But Hey, we'll appreciate that. We got to get the strap in the mail to Matt here shortly.
Yeah, I definitely
And
do. It's been sitting here on my desk for like a month, and I even have his address. Like I was like, hey, send me your address, and I've had his address for a month since like right after the Army Navy game. So I got to get that done immediately.
yeah, for sure. But in short show, not a whole lot of college football to cover, but we definitely will be heading into the off season. Hey, if you're not a fan of, if you haven't paid attention to anything that's going on with the Army sports, please jump on Ask for Football and check out. There's a whole bunch of other podcasts and everything else that are out there, but we try and give you the Homer's view of Army sports if you can,
Well,
if you can realize it. Go ahead. Dan.
if I could just, you got lacrosse starting in about a little less than a month. Baseball they just released their schedule. We're talking about doing more as for baseball stuff. So it's an interesting season. I have the template for an As for Lax article in my notebook right now that I just need to sit down and like work through. It should be an interesting season. There's also, I think it's USA Lacrosse just put out their season preview for Army Lax, which was like a really good article and better than anything that I personally had read or even considered writing. So anyway, there's that. I'm kind of rambling.
No problem. But bottom line is we're coming to the end of the college football season. College football is a wrap. This is the last show. Again, shout out to Michigan. Hail to the victors. You guys are the national championships in 2020 or national champions in 2023. Thanks for checking us out. We will probably do a spring ball show. Be on the lookout for like interviews or any other things that we might get, because occasionally we get some of the Army coaching staff or some of the athletic department will pop on to the show, but we'll make sure we'll give you a heads up before that happens. We will definitely talk transfer portal the next time we come back, but again, going to wait until spring ball because there's so much movement going on right now. It is insanity. And really the biggest thing is, taking the time to take a breather for a little bit, because it's a pretty intense, run from August until January. And so we try and give you the best coverage that we can. And when we get a chance to take a break, we take a break, because we know come August, it's going to be running fast and furious again. However, if you guys have any ideas or thoughts of shows that you might want to see, just let us know, so we have time in the off season to kind of plan those things out and get them ready.
Once spring break happens, I think we'll be ready to talk about college football again and sort of check in. So if you guys want to talk about something, that would be the time to bring it up. Like about the time everybody's like, Jesus, I really miss college football.
Yeah, that's when we'll start getting in. Thanks again for checking out the College Football Roundtable. And I'm your host, Rob, in Fayetteville, North Carolina. We got Dano Ikebesa calling out of coastal Connecticut. We've got Trigger Joe. He's running around triggered because they won. So in a good way. Anyway, we will talk to you guys next season, but be on the lookout for As for Lax and As for Baseball. And again, for the crew here at the College Football Roundtable, thanks for taking the 2023 season with us. And as always, go Army, beat Navy, and we will catch you guys next season.
All right, well, let's get into the big one. Football is next. So we put out a feeler to our Firsty Club members, asked them who they thought, if they had any questions. And the one question that was most asked was about joining a conference. So number one, have any conferences reached out since the last time we spoke? And then the other sort of half of that question is, what sort of, I know you said that you value Army's independence. I think that Army as an institution does too. What sort of conditions do you see that would lead to Army joining a conference?
Yeah, great question. I'll try to be pretty transparent here. The shifting landscape of college football and college athletics in general, it's those external factors. We still value our independence. For example, if the college football playoff expands, which it's going to, the way the proposal is written is it's the 5 Power 5 conference champions, and then the next highest ranked conference champion, and then the next 6 highest ranked teams. So essentially what they're saying is the Power 5 conference champs all get in. And then whatever group of 5 team that's the highest ranked, right? Whether it's the Sun Belt champ, the MAC champ, the American champ. Well, that means Army as an independent. It used to be if we were just the highest ranked independent, I thought, or the highest ranked group of 5, you might get that last spot. But now they're saying it's the highest ranked group of 5 conference champion. So we don't have an avenue other than we have to be ranked in the top 12 in the country, which is going to be difficult to do when teams like Tennessee and others decide, I know we had a contract, but we're not going to play you.
Yeah.
And by the way, like if I'm the AD at Tennessee, I'm making the same decision. Like, playing Army is a really difficult proposition for Power 5 teams, because if you beat us, you're supposed to, and it ain't going to be easy to beat us. And if you don't beat us, it's, the world has ended, Armageddon set in. So, and let me be clear, Jeff Monken and Mike Buddy and Steve Gillen, like, we want opportunity to be the best at everything that we do. And so we want to be in the college football playoff. And so if the only way that we get there, and this is crystal clear, and there's no other opportunity by the year 2027 for us to get to the college football playoff, other than to join a group of 5 league and win it, I think we'd be crazy not to consider it. Not to mention the things that go along with that college football playoff, which is a big cut of the money that's going to exponentially grow. They think about $450 million of new money will come in with the expansion. Those are dollars that I need so that our rugby program can keep operating and winning national championships, and our softball team and our volleyball team can continue to keep pace as travel costs and airplane jet fuel and buses, all those costs are rising. So the other question, James, has anybody called me from a conference? No. But it's my job after every fiscal year to sit back and say, hey, are we doing everything to maximize revenue? When we do that through Army Navy games, and we do that through game guarantees, and we do it through partnerships with Nike and CBS and Learfield. And so, I think I use the word holistic all the time. I do a holistic review of our department, and revenue matters. It's not the only thing. I mean, if revenue was the only thing that mattered, Boo Corrigan would have joined a conference 10 years ago. So we're no closer to joining a conference, but we're no further from joining a conference either. And anybody that sits here and pounds the fist and says, we will never, ever do X, Y, or Z, usually ends up looking pretty goofy when they end up doing precisely that. So I'll just leave it there.
And I think one of my favorite moments, favorite game, our senior year, we were able to close out 4 years in a row, beating Navy. And I think my final kickoff against Navy, stopped them. We had one more play. I come running off. Everybody's yelling, victory, victory. And we all know what that means is defensive backs.
Yeah.
It's like, get in that nickel, go smash them off the line. I'm yelling, victory. Yeah, we beat Navy again. And Coach Burnett grabbed me by the face mask. He's like, victory. That's you, dumbass. Get in there. Okay, you're the other strong safety, and go get a jam on this guy. And so the final play of my career, I took this guy to the hot dog stand.
Come on.
I mean, so he was not a factor. And then to run down and see Donnie Augustus intercept the ball in the end zone to wrap up 4 straight years of beating Navy, pretty
so good.
Vivid and special memory to me.
Zop.
Thanks for listening to the Ask for Football College Football Roundtable. Join the AFF team next week for more hot takes and college football analysis. If you like the show and you want to support us, consider signing up for our Patreon at Ask for Football, or opting into our mailing list at askforfootball.com/subscribe. We'll catch you guys next week, and as always, beat Navy.